Hey everyone, how are you? Welcome to the episode number 5 of Django Mastery series. And in this episode, we are going to see how can we save our codes to the database using Django models. So basically, we are going to understand about Django models and how Django models is going to help us to interact with a database and save our data into a database and load our data from the database. So in this episode, we are going to extend our code of the day application by storing the user submitted codes into a real database using Django models. We will display the submitted codes dynamically on the home page, not on the home page, but on the codes page. What you are going to learn in this particular episode is what is a Django model, how to define a Django model in models.py file, how to apply migrations to create database tables, how to handle post requests and save our data, and how to fetch and display dynamic data in Django templates. The first step is creating the code model. Now, before we do the steps, let us see what we already have. So for that, you can go to your terminal, activate your virtual environment. The terminal should point to the project folder. For me, it is a Django Mastery folder. So right now my terminal is pointing to Django Mastery folder. Then we need to run the server, our Django development server. For that, we can say python manage.py run server. Once you run your server, now let us go back to a browser and let us try to see what we already have. So let us go to the codes page. For that, we need to go to our server. Then we need to say slash codes. These are all the codes we have as of now. And now as a user, we can create a new code. We can submit a new code and let us say this is our code. Learning is the key. When you will submit the code, this is going to be added in the codes list. And you can also see the submitted code here. Now the thing is, this data is getting lost. If I just try to go to the page again, you will see that the data is lost. It is not stored anywhere. It is lost, right? And this is something we saw in the last episode. How can we submit the form and access the value and display it in our template? Now in this episode, our focus is on databases. So let us go back to the code editor and let us try to understand few things before we actually start doing the coding. Now, I want you guys to just run the server again. Okay, in the terminal, you need to run the server. To run the server, you just need to write the command python manage.py run server. Hit enter. And now let us look at this particular message. We need to focus on this red message. It says that you have 18 unapplied migrations. Your project may not work properly until you apply the migrations for apps, admin, auth, content types, and sessions. You need to run the command python manage.py migrate to apply them. Now you need to understand about migrations. Before that, you need to understand about a concept called as Django models. Now, this is what we need to understand. What is a Django model? So basically in Django, if you want to interact with a database, what do we need to do? In general, what do we need to do? We just need to write SQL commands, right? Or I can say SQL queries. Queries like select something from some table, right? These are some commands we run on the database. Or we can say create table, new table, right? This is how we fetch a data from a table. This is how we create a new table. If you want to insert some value into a table, you say insert into new table and then some columns, maybe column 1, column 2, and then you insert the values, right? Now these are the different values you might want to insert. Now what are we doing right now? We are writing SQL queries to interact with our database. What are database? Database are something which can store our data, right? So we have a database. In database, we have different tables, right? We can have many tables. Table 1, then we can have table 2, then we can have table number 3. Different tables are used to store different data. Something like there can be a table called as product, there can be a table called as customer, and there can be a table called as orders, right? Orders is going to store orders data, customer is going to store customers data, and each table itself has different columns. Like product can have a column like product ID, product name, product price. Customer can have columns like customer ID, customer name, customer date of birth, right? And you can have orders in which you can have fields like or columns like order ID, order date, order amount, order status, that it is delivered or not. So there are different things which you can have in a table, and all of these tables are under a database, right? There are various databases like MySQL you might know about, or you have Postgres, right? And you have Oracle database, and you might have heard about SQLite as well, right? Now these are different relational database in which you can create tables to store your data. When we talk about Django models, a model in a Django is basically referring to a table in the database. So if I'm saying you, I have a Django model, it means that I have a table in a database. So if I have a table in the database product, I can say I have a Django model product, I have another Django model customer, I have another Django model orders. So basically a Django model means it is referring to a table in a database, right? Now this is what a Django model is. Now if your web application wants to interact with some kind of database, you can either write SQL code directly, right? These are the SQL you need to write: select, create, insert, delete. There are a lot of things you need to do, update, right? In Django, we don't really need to do all of these things. In Django, you don't really need to write the SQL queries directly, because in Django, we have Django models. And these models provide us different functionalities using which we can execute select command, create command, insert command, and a lot of different commands. We can do a lot of SQL things without actually writing any kind of SQL query. Now the thing is, all of this is because of Django models. And Django models are nothing but a table in a database. So from this we can say that a Django model is something which refers to a table in a database Now your model, which is a table, will have different fields, right? Those different fields are nothing but different columns in your table. Now why I am telling you all of these things, because right now we are trying to understand about databases and how to interact with a database in Django. Now the thing is guys, let's come back to the message. This was the message we were getting: 18 unapplied migrations, and your project may not work if you don't apply these migrations. And these migrations are because of the app's admin, auth, content types, sessions. Now you might say that, where are these applications? Where are these apps? We just created one app that's called as home. But if you will go to the settings.py file, which is under the project configuration folder my side, in the settings.py file, go down and you will see installed apps. In the installed apps, we have home, which we have written, but we already have certain applications which are already there when we create a Django project. Now there are apps like admin, auth, content types, sessions, messages, static files. And now when you will focus on the log, you will see that the apps due to which we have some unapplied migrations. And I know that you don't know about migrations as of now. I will come on it. But for now, you need to understand that the message 18 unapplied migrations is because of apps admin. This is the admin. We have auth. This is the auth. We have content types. This is the content types. And we have sessions. And this is the sessions. Now we have home, right? Well, now what happens when a Django server runs? It checks in the installed apps, what other apps do I have? Now in each of the applications, in each of the apps, we have a functionality using which we can define certain models, and those models are nothing but tables in a database. Now in our home application, we have this models.py where we can define our databases, basically the models, the Django models. We will see how to define it, but for now, if you open the file, you will find it almost empty. It says that create your models here. There is models which is already imported from django.db. Now we don't have a model as of now. We need to create it, and we will create it. But for now, if you will try to understand this, what happens is when you run the server, it checks in each of the applications what are the different models which are available. And if there are models which are available, Django wants you to apply the migrations. Migrations you can understand like committing your change. So basically these are the applications which does have few models already defined. Django knows about it, and that's why it is saying that your applications has 18 unapplied migrations. Migrations, again I'm telling you, migrations are changes. Migration means changes. Okay, if your applications has Django models defined and there are changes in those models, then it will ask you, the server is going to ask you to apply those migrations. Now I know that few things might be confusing, which is fine. We are going to understand everything step by step, one by one, so there can be some confusions. Now let me tell you in short that this message is telling us that there are applications, and these applications has Django models. Those Django models, Django knows about those models, your project knows about those models, but those models has changes. There are total 18 changes in the models, and those changes, those migrations are not applied. Your Django project knows about those migrations, but it knows that it is not applied. We need to apply those migrations, and after you apply those migrations, this message will be gone. Now why I am telling you all of this, because this is completely related to what we need to do in this particular episode, that is create a table in which we can save our data, basically interacting with the database to save our codes. How to get rid of this message? Let me tell you. Just close the server, okay? Clear your console, and you need to run a command python manage.py. So basically the command line arguments which you need to run in your project, you do it using the manage.py file. This is something which I've already told you in episode 1. So python manage.py, and now you need to say migrate. Now once you hit enter, what this is going to do is whatever migrations or changes which our Django application knows about, it will try to apply all those migrations. Hit enter, wait for some time, and now you will see applying content types dot 0001 underscore initial. Okay, like this you will see 18 messages, and all of them are okay. It means that the migrations are applied. Now you can clear the console and run your server again. When you will run the server again, you will not find that message, the error message which was saying that there are some unapplied migrations. Now in your project folder, there is going to be a file db.sqlite3. Now I'm going to tell you why this file is there and what is the use of this file, and let us try to understand it one by one. Basically this is the SQLite database which is already configured in our project. We have not done the configuration. This is already done by Django, and I will show you where. So basically right now our application is using SQLite database, because whatever database or whatever tables, whatever migrations we have done, those has to be done on a database, right? So you might have a question that which database are we using? Is it MySQL? Is it Postgres or what? So the answer is SQLite as of now. Now the thing is, SQLite is a already built-in database which is provided with Python, so you don't need to do any kind of configuration to use SQLite database. It's already pre-configured in your Python installation, so you don't need to do any kind of installation or any kind of setup. And I'm using a VSCode with an extension which can help me to view the SQLite file. When I'm opening this file at db.sqlite3, you can find that I have a different list of tables. These are the tables I have: auth underscore group, auth underscore group underscore permissions. Like this, I have a lot of tables. Each of the table has different fields. Like I can go to the auth underscore user underscore groups. In this, you can find fields or columns like ID, user ID, group ID. Now the thing is, we have all these tables. As of now, we don't need to worry about all these tables. What we need to worry about is how can we save our codes into a database. And to save a code, we are going to create a separate table or a Django model for codes. Now, before I create it, let me show you one very important thing which you need to understand. Go to the my site folder, go to your settings.py file. In the settings.py file, if you will go down, you will see something like this. This is the current database configuration which we have for our project. There is a variable databases and the value is a dictionary, in which the default database we have is, that is default is the key and this is the value. In the value, we need to tell what is the engine. The engine is django.db.backends.sqlite3. So we are basically using the SQLite 3 engine and we are using the SQLite database to execute our database code. When we are using SQLite, we don't need to do any kind of configuration. We just need to provide the name of the file. The name is db.sqlite3 base_dir/db.sqlite3. That's the name of our file we have, db.sqlite3. Now, this base dir is basically referring to our current project folder, which is Django Mastery, and this is defined above in your settings.py file. In your settings.py file, we have this base dir, which is equal to path, whatever file we are currently in, .resolve.parent.parent. So we are currently in settings.py, its parent is my site, its parent is Django Mastery, that's our project, and then you will go back to your database, you will see that the name is base dir/db.sqlite3. That's what we have here. In our Django Mastery folder, we have db.sqlite3. As of now, we have our database setup ready. Now let us try to understand how can we create our own model and how can we save our data into that model. To create a model, I have already told you that in the settings.py file, you can find in the installed applications, we have all these apps, right? These applications are Django specific application. We don't need to worry about it as of now. But this home folder or the home application is something which we have created, right? Now we are going to define our model in this home application. Once we define our Django model, Django is going to recognize that change, that there is a change in the Django models in our project and we need to apply that change using the migration. So let me show you how. Go to your home folder or your home application. In that you will find the models. Go to your models.py file. In the models.py file, let us try to create another model which is for codes. To define a model, we can create a class code. This is going to extend models.model class. Now this is how we create a class, basically a Django model. We first import models from django.db. Then we create a class. The class name is code, and then models.model class is the parent class of code. This is making sure that our code is also a model now. So we need to define a field called as code, and this code will be equal to models.text field. Now, as of now, you might have a lot of questions that what is happening. Let me tell you. We created a class code and models.model class is the parent class of code. Now, using this parent class, using this inheritance, now our code class is also a Django model. Django model means tables in databases. And now we have a field. We have a field called as code, basically a column in our database. So we have a field code and the code is equal to models.text field. So you know that in a database, when you have a column has a data type. What kind of data our column wants to store. So there is a data type called as text, right? So our code is equal to models.text. This is how we tell Django that our code will be a text field. Let us define one more field. Let us say submitted_at. This is equal to models.datetime field, and we have a functionality auto_now_add is equal to true. Now what is happening right now? We created another field submitted@. This field is equal to models.datetime field. Basically it is a datetime field. There is a data type in database which is datetime. So we created a datetime field and we also created one more functionality. This is something which Django provides. It says that auto now add is equal to true. It means that whenever there is a new data which will get created in code, the code table, this field submitted@at field will automatically have a value, and the value is going to be the current time, the time at which this particular data was created, this particular row of data was created. This field will be filled with that value. So as of now, we have defined our model, right? Now there are a lot of things in Django model which we need to understand. I don't want to put everything in just one video or one episode so that you get confused. It's better that you just focus on few of the things in a particular episode. So as of now, we created a model, right? We created a model code. This is basically referring to a database table. And now it has two fields, the code which we are going to store and submitted@. Now my next question is, when you will go to your logs, do you find the same message? Something like, hey, you have some unapplied migrations? Because you might have a question that in our home application, in the models, we created a model. And I told you guys that if you are going to have a change in your models, we need to apply those migrations. But we don't see that message now. And that is because we first need to create those migrations. Earlier, what you saw, all the 18 migrations that were already created by Django when the project was created. When we did a change, we need to create a migration. We basically need to run a command so that Django specifically, it will check that are there any changes in the database? Yes, there is a new code model which got added in the home application. For this, we need to apply the migration. But for that, we first need to ask Django that, hey, go and check in the models of all the applications which you know about, that are there any changes. So for that, we need to run a command, and for that, we just close our server, clear the console, and then you need to run the command python manage.py make migrations. Now what this command is going to do, this command is going to scan all the application which our Django project knows about, all the applications. We know that for all these applications, we have already applied the migrations and there are no new changes, right? But in the home application, we have this models and we created a new model, right? Or specifically, I can say we did some change. Now, if we run this command, this change is going to be recognized. Hit enter. Now there is a migration which got created. Migrations for home. This is the migration which got created 0001 underscore initial dot py. What is this doing? It is creating a model code. Now, if you try to run the server again, you will see the message again. You have one unapplied migrations. Your project may not work properly until you apply the migration for apps home. In the home app, we have a migration. In the home app, you have a folder. Now this folder got created, the migrations folder. In the migrations folder, we have this file 0001 underscore initial.py. Now this file is the migration which got created and this migration is not applied, and that is why we are seeing this particular message again. So now what we can do is we can just close the server again, and now we need to run a command. The command is python manage.py migrate. We run the command migrate. If there are any changes, let's commit or let's do those changes. Hit enter, wait for some time, and you will see apply all migrations for all the applications which we have: admin, auth, content types, home, sessions. Running the migrations for only one app we have, which is home, because this app does have a change. The migration is now applied. You can clear the console, run the server again, and you will again not find the message which was saying that you have some unapplied migrations. Now let me go to this db.sqlite, our database file. Now in this database file, if I will try to select some table, I will have one more option, which is home underscore quote. That's the name of my table which got created. If I will go to this, I will find ID. This ID is something which is automatically created. You don't need to create it. It got automatically created. And there is a field quote. That is something which we created, and the data type is text. There is a field submitted at, and the data type is date time. The name of the table is home underscore quote, and that's the format we have by default. When you will go to the models, you will see that the name is quote. So when it creates the table name, it will say home. That's the application name we have, home underscore the model name in lowercase quote. This is the table name which will get created. We can actually override this functionality and we can make sure that whatever name we want, that name will be created for the table. But for now, we don't need to worry about that thing. You can get rid of this. Now we have our database ready. We have our table ready. We have our Django model ready. Next thing is we need to go to the views.py and we need to update the quotes function view. We basically need to update it because now we have to fetch our data from the database, right? Now again, you might have a question that, hey, do I need to run the SQL queries for this? And my answer is no. We are going to make use of Django models, and Django has a ORM. Django ORM we can say. So basically the Django ORM is a very powerful feature which allows our application to interact with a database using Python code instead of writing any kind of SQL queries. So basically it's like an intermediate between the Python object and the database table. You write your code in Python and it will be executed like a SQL query. And that is why we don't need to write any kind of SQL query. We are going to make use of our Django model and we are going to just call some functions, and those functions will be internally converted to SQL queries using Django ORM. This is something which is built into Django. You don't need to do any kind of extra setup for this. So go to your views.py file. In the views.py file, the first thing which you need to do is, right now you have some list of codes, right? What you can do is you can get rid of these codes. So basically all the codes which we will have right now will be coming from the database. So let's get rid of this particular codes list. So let's actually remove it completely. Then what we will have is we have a submitted code, right? Which is as of now none. We can also get rid of this submitted code thing. Just remove it. What we need to understand right now is if there is a post request, it means that a particular user has submitted a new code, right? Let's store this code in this variable submitted underscore code. This is equal to request.post.get code. This is something which is coming from the template. If you will go back to the template, codes.html, we have this form. So when a user will submit a form, our views file is going to get this value code when there is a post request. So for a post request, we will have this value. Now you don't need to store this value in a list. You need to store this value in the database, right? Now to access your database, what you need to do is you need to import this code in your views. For that, you need to go above in the views at the top. You need to write from dot models import code. So what does this mean? It's a basic way in Python to import different classes from different files. So basically this dot means that I am referring to the current folder in which I am. Views.py is in the home folder. It means I am referring to the home folder dot models. So there is a file models. In the models, there are different things which I can import. I want to import code, right? So this code got imported. Now I can make use of this code to interact with my database. Now I'm asking you guys, once I have the submitted code, what do we want to do with this? We want to create a new record in our code table, home underscore code table, right? Because right now if I try to go to the db.sqlite, the records are empty. In the table home underscore code, there are no records. So what we need to do is we need to push this record in our database. Now to create a record, what you need to do is you need to say what's the table name or the Django model name. It is quote, right? Quote dot objects dot create. This is how you will create a new record. And in this, you need to pass some arguments. Those arguments are the field names and the values. So your quote model has two fields, quote and submitted. This submitted value will automatically get a value which is the current time at which this record was created. This quote value is going to get the value from the value or basically the quote which the user had submitted. So go to your views file. You need to pass this value to the field quote, right? So you will say quote is equal to submitted quote. Now this is how we are going to create a new record in our database. Now when you come out of the if condition, because this particular code will only get executed when there is a post request. But what if there is a get request to our quotes endpoint or quotes page? First of all, we need to fetch all the quotes which we have, right? So we are going to say quotes underscore list is equal to, now we are going to fetch some data. So basically we are trying to run the select command in our database. So for that we will say quote dot objects dot all. Now what is this doing? This all means that select all the data which I have in the quotes table. Basically running the command select all from home underscore quote. This is what we want to run and this is how we are going to run it. And all of this magic is happening because of Django ORM. Once we have all the quotes available, what we can do is we can say we have the quotes list, right? Now this is the kind of list we will receive. The random quote will now be equal to random.choice quotes underscore list. All right. Now we create a data, the data which we want to send. Then we send the quote which got randomly selected. Then we send all the quotes which we have, which will be in the quotes list. And then we also send the data submitted underscore quote, which is equal to submitted quote. Now almost everything is good. What we just need to do is we need to update something in our templates. And let me show you what. Go to your template, quotes.html. In the template, what you need to do is you need to do some change in this list, in the unordered list, where we were trying to show all the quotes which we have. So these are all the quotes which we have, and we are saying for q in all quotes. But right now, this value q is not what we want to print. So let's not actually do the change. Let's go to the browser and let's try to refresh the page and let us see what we have as of now. Hit enter, and right now what we have is index error at quotes. Cannot choose from an empty sequence, which is fine. Okay, so I get it. What's the error? The error is in the line number 23. Let's go back to the code editor. In the line number 23 of your views.py file, you will see that we are trying to select a random quote out of a list. Initially, the list is empty, right? So when the list is empty, then this is going to throw an error. So what we are going to do is we are going to say if quotes list, then we are going to select the random, else this will be none. So if there is a quotes list, that is if there is any data in the quotes list, then we are going to randomly select a value out of it, else this is going to be none. The random quote is going to be none. Now let's go back to the browser and try to see what we have. Try to refresh the page. Again, we got an error. Cannot access local variables. Submitted quote. Okay, I think we didn't create the variable. Okay, we actually deleted the variable. So let's do one thing. Let's actually get rid of this. We don't need this now. Okay, we just need the random quote and all the quotes. Again, let's go back to the browser and again try to refresh the page. And now what you see is quote of the day is none. We don't have any quote as of now. No quote for today. Enter your quote. Now this is pretty cool, right? This is cool because now we can enter a quote and now we know that our quote will not get lost. It will be stored in a database. So let's actually add some quotes and then we are going to see the internal functionality that how is this happening. So for that, the first quote is going to be do good and feel good. Submit this. And now what you see is quote object one, today's quote is quote object one. I mean, this is very ugly, right? We don't want this. We want the quote which we have added, but this is what we get, which is fine. What we are going to do is we are going to add some more quote. Let us say learning is the key. Submit this. And now you will see quote object one. This is a randomly selected quote. These are the two quotes which we have created. And then this is the randomly selected quote. If you will just go to the page again, you might see that the randomly selected quote is quote object 2, right? So this is something which gets randomly selected. If you just keep refreshing it, this value might change. Just keep refreshing it. Yes, this time it is 1. Or maybe let's just add one more quote. Failure is just a learning. Failure is just a learning. Submit this. Now you have 3 quotes. Now if you will go to the page again, the randomly selected quote is quote number 2 or quote number 1 or 2. Let's try for 3. We got 3. So I think this is what we have as of now, but we need to see the code and not this, right? Let's go back to the code editor and let's try to understand what's happening right now. Once you are submitting a quote, we are receiving a post request. So the submitted quote is equal to request.post.get. This is the quote we got. And then we created a new object or a new record in our quote table. Let me show you the table. db.sqlite 3. Try to refresh it. And now you will see we have 3 different data. These are the data we have. The data is 1, 2, 3. That's the ID which is getting auto generated. The quotes are do good, feel good, learning is the key, and failure is just a learning. We have the different timings as well, submitted at. Now this is the time at which this particular data got created and this is automatically getting added. We don't need to do anything. What we just did is we told Django that for this auto now add is going to be true. Means whenever the data is getting created, this field will be equal to the current time. Now we have these 3 data, but for now what we are doing is we are saying this is the quote list. This is the random quote which got selected. So basically right now, this complete row is the data, right? It's just not the code, the ID, the submitted ad, all the fields is a data. And that's why what you see on the UI is not the code actually, right? It's the whole code object or the whole code row. What we need to print is the code out of it. So when you will go to the codes.html, this is all the codes you have. The queue, this particular queue is the complete code row, is the complete table row in your data. You need to say queue.code. This is the field which I want to print. Now, if you will go back to the browser and try to refresh the page, you will see do good and feel good. Learning is the key. Failure is just a learning. And we just did the change in the unordered list, and that is why it is in the unordered list. Let's do the change in the other places in the template as well. Go to your code editor again, and you can say code.code because this code is the complete row we have. This is what we have, random code. This is the complete code which got selected out of the codes list. So we basically need to say random code or dot submitted at or dot id, and let's actually do that thing. We can say let's actually do the change code.code, and in the list I can say dash dash, then I can say queue, that's the complete row, dot submitted underscore at. Now when you will go back to the browser and try to refresh the page, you will see the timing as well. June 12th 2025, that's the time, right? So you have the code, you have the submitted at, and we have actually stored our data in a database. So right now what you can do is you can just submit more codes. You can say consistency wins. I think the spelling is wrong, but that's fine. Submit this, and now you will see consistency wins, right? All the data which you have added is here. So we are able to save our code in a database. We are able to display those codes in the UI or in the web page as well, right? And that is what we wanted to do in this particular episode. And I know guys, this episode is pretty big, but this episode covers a lot of things about Django models, data, databases, how can we interact with databases, and this is just the beginning. We created a database model. We accessed this model in the views.py file by importing it. And now if you want to perform any kind of database related query, you can say code.objects.create to create a data, codes.objects.all to fetch a data. And this is how we do it, which is fine. And this is just the beginning. This is just a small part of how we interact with the database or what we do in the database using Django. There are lots and lots of things, and we are going to see a lots and lots of things in the coming videos, in the coming episodes. So I hope you will be with me for all the episodes because we want to master Django, and this series is about mastering Django mastery series, right? So guys, I think that's it for this particular episode. One more thing which you need to remember is whenever we do some changes in the models which we have in our database, in our Django project, we first need to run the command python manage.py, then make migrations. This is going to create the migrations. This is not going to do any kind of change, but this is going to just scan all the applications which we have. And if there is any kind of change in the Django models, then this is going to create a record of it. This is going to create a migration out of it. And then you actually need to do the migrations. For that, you will say python manage.py migrate. So basically the first command is just going to scan the application to see what are the migrations required, and then it will create a migration file. Then you run this command to actually do the migration. And migration simply means that applying the changes in your database in your Django models. So I hope you understood everything which I wanted to explain you guys in this particular episode. But if there are things which you didn't got, if there are things which you want to clarify or you have questions or feedbacks, then make sure that you put it in the comment box. And if you are actually enjoying the series, then make sure that you hit that like button for this video, for this episode, and subscribe the channel as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching this video, guys.